Good morning everybody, welcome to Monday. 3 more emails this week for us to address. First of all, we have a query regarding an investment in an unrelated unit trust and whether or not that unit trust can borrow to buy a property. The second question is where, on the advice of an accountant and a solicitor, some members transferred a property to their fund. The transfer is completed, now they want their money. So that's interesting. And the third one, we have a solicitor that's about to turn 75 and is about to retire and sell his business to his son, and we're now looking at what can go into super, what dates can he put it into super, considering that he's very close to turning 75 years old, and how we go about doing it with CGT concessions. Okay, first one. Hi Pete, hope you're well, mate. I have a quick question, as I was confident I knew the answer until I just started researching it and not sure now. Here is the questions. Client wants to buy a property worth $750,000. Can 3 unrelated SMSFs invest in units in a unit trust at say $150,000 each? The unit trust now has $450,000 in total. Can it then go and borrow the rest of the $300,000 from the bank and buy the property? Is this arrangement possible? I know alternatively the SMSF could go and borrow the money in their names against the units of the trust, but is the above scenario acceptable? I currently have 2 different clients in the same scenario and 3 different auditors have signed off on the structure. Let's just have a look at this. 3 SMSFs where we are told they are unrelated, so they're not related parties. So each of those SMSFs invests in a unit trust. So the SMSF owns a third of a unit trust and totally unrelated parties own the rest of the unit trust. So the question we've got to ask there is this an investment in a related party? And an investment in a related party is an investment in a company or a unit trust that is controlled by the super fund and its Part 8 associates. Now what we're told here is that the other funds are not related parties, so therefore they are not Part 8 associates of each super fund. So therefore the super fund is investing in an entity that is not a related party, so section 71 just doesn't apply because it's not an investment in a related party. There's nothing else that would restrict what that unit trust does other than that unit trust then providing financial benefit to the members of the fund, which I would assume it's not going to do here. So in terms of 3 SMSFs that are totally unrelated parties investing equally into a unit trust, and then that unit trust borrowing to buy a property, it can then do that and you're not breaching anything on the face of it, of the SIS provisions. You need to make sure that all 3 super funds are dealt with equally. You don't want any non-arm's length dealings happening here where one super fund does better than the others because it may be seen as a non-arm's length investment. But certainly this is one way for SMSFs that aren't related to invest in a unit trust and access gearing without doing an LRBA. Just make sure that you don't inadvertently control that trust. You may well be owning a third of the trust with 2 other unrelated super funds, but if you exercise control, notwithstanding you only own a third, but everybody delegates everything to you and says, oh, whatever you want, we do that, you're the only signatory to the checks, then you might be exercising control of that trust. Notwithstanding you only own a third of it, it is a trust that you control, and as such, it is an investment in a related party, and an investment in a related trust is an in-house asset where that trust borrows. It would also have been a breach to acquire the investment in the trust where that investment was in a related party and it was more than 5% of the value of the fund. So if the fund's worth 500 grand, if it's more than 25,000 invested in a related unit trust that doesn't comply with regulation 1322, then that would also be a breach of the Act. Interestingly, the advisor says here, I know alternatively the SMSF can go and borrow money in their own names against the units in the trust, and from an unrelated third party, no problem whatsoever. However, you need to understand that this loan has to be limited recourse. I can't imagine an arm's length lender accepting from a client who is an SMSF to borrow against units in a trust where the SMSF only controls a third of the trust. I can't really see a bank doing that, and therefore you would have to borrow from a related party, and again I think in most instances that borrowing would not be arm's length and you would be caught on the non-arm's length provisions. So I would certainly not suggest at really any point in time that a client borrows to acquire units in a related or an unrelated unit trust unless the client's capable of getting that loan from a bank. Very few are, and if you are, then get it from a bank. By all means refinance that in the future, but go and get it from a bank first, because that's the evidence to the ATO that this is an arm's length arrangement. Thanks for watching the first of our 3 case studies for this video. If you would like to watch the next 2 case studies, please click on the link below and subscribe to our Advisors Digest, where we share technical content exclusively for our subscribers. Also, each Monday morning, we will send you an email with a link to watch the full 3 case studies that we cover for that week.